It's Sunday morning here at the Imola circuit, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari. This is Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux, race 2 of the weekend after a race 1 that I think is going to be pivotal in the season. It was around the mid-stage last year at the Hungaroring where the picture of this championship changed. And yesterday, around this 4.909 kilometre circuit, I think we had our 2026 equivalent new championship leader. And it is the driver on pole position, Milan Marczak, with a win yesterday, while Jaap van Lagen non-scored. And that means that the championship complexion has had a significant shift. Marczak leads now on a provisional, because it's my maths, 90 points. 90 points for Milan Marczak, the Polish racer. Van Lagen still on the 86 points that he had coming into this weekend after his non-finish yesterday with a puncture. Alexander Reimann, of course, he was tagged into a spin down at Tosa by Hjelte Hufner. He's now on 83 points, Alexander Reimann. Incidentally, Hjelte Hufner was penalised for his role in that collision and was dropped out of the championship points as a result. Reimann on 83 points, then 7 back from Marczak, third in the championship, and then fourth in the championship, as best I can tell, is Frank Porte Ruiz on 65 points. So, cars rolling on the formation lap. Sound of these Porsche 992 Cup cars waking up the locals this morning at the start of Sunday's racing action. Of course, today is the 4 hours of Imola for the European Le Mans Series. That's the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. Getting our day rolling here. Always a stellar competition between these drivers across the season, looking to add themselves to the Hall of Champions, inhabited by drivers like Ayhan Guven, Harry King, and of course, most recently, Jaap van Lagen, the champion from last year, looking to defend his title, but he's got some work to do based on the events of Saturday. No longer leading the championship. Of course, these cars running on synthetic fuel from the company Fuel, that's FU3L. The fuel primarily made with agricultural and forestry residues, which means that the synthetic fuel can avoid competition for materials with things like food supply. Works with existing engines and infrastructure, and given the future often needs to bridge to the present, that is a very useful point. We thank Fuel for their participation. FU3L, take a look. Milan Marczak, the Ajith Red Ant Racing driver, starting on pole position by just 0.02 of a second over Alexander Reimann, Joep Muller and Jan van Lagen on row 2 of the grid. Row 3 comprised of Hjelte Hufner and Jan Seifert. Row 4, Arthur Peters and Karel Kret. Joep Bredveld on row 5 with Frank Porte. David Jivok in the 6th row of the grid with Mace Muller. Row 7, the American racer Henry Wheeler aboard his number 18, Yanni Kakala. Alongside him, the Pro-Am driver, the only point scorer in Pro-Am this weekend. Jakob Twarog is next on the 8th row of the grid. Jesse Polderdijk alongside him. Ali Al-Jafali on the 9th row. And Makoto Haga rounding out the starting order. Haga, also a Pro-Am driver, but he's also a guest starter for this weekend, so not a consideration where it comes to points. So Yanni Kakala running effectively uncontested this weekend, but he was right in there with some of the rookie and pro class drivers yesterday. He'll be looking to do the same again from that 7th row of the grid. Yesterday, we got off to a wild start, largely courtesy of Frank Porte, who decided that rallycrossing was the only way forward off the line. Somehow he managed to keep the car pointed in the right direction. He's starting a little further back from the 5th row of the grid today, so he's got some work to do for sure. Jaap van Lagen from 4th on the grid will also be very keen to make immediate progress. Of course, he was running 2nd to Milan Marczak at the time of his podium yesterday. Or at the time of his puncture, sorry, yesterday. Different P word. But I think the driver with the most of a chip on his shoulder today is going to be Alexander Reimann, potentially Hjelte Hufner. Hufner, who was penalised for his collision with Reimann, and Reimann, who was, well, penalised by the collision itself, being spun down the field. Reimann would like to try and regain an advantage in the championship, as would Jaap van Lagen. We're underway, we're racing, and it's a good start from the pole sitter, Milan Marczak, nailing that start. We've once again got someone rally crossing. That looked to be the number 5 of Jurt Bredveld, taking the road less travelled, or travelling off the road entirely. Everyone getting through Tamburello cleanly for the first time by the looks of it. Of course, formerly a huge high-speed sweeper these days, and indeed for the last 30 years, a much tighter chicane and a pinch point to start the lap, and mercifully everyone's gotten through without damage on the first lap of the race. There's Frank Porte looking to the inside of Jurt Bredveld, who's certainly having a mixed first lap, not just mixed conditions, but now under pressure as well, not just from Frank Porte, but also from the 77 of David Jivok just behind, and the 13 getting in on that as well. That's Mace Muller. You watch his brother, Jurt Muller, have his best race of the season in yesterday's race. Won the rookie class and came 2nd overall, did young Jurt Muller. He's running 4th as this race gets underway. Let's see what he can do today. There he is in 4th position, just ahead of the 998 of Jan Seyfert. Mace Muller then has got ahead of all of that drama. He's just ahead of Jurt Bredveld. Side by side further back there for one of the Polish entered cars from JW Race Service. I think that was Twarog, was it? No, sorry, that's Henry Wheeler, the American driver, in at the 18 car. Wheeler, who of course was here a week ago, getting some practice in another series. His Porsche Cup car in what were 40-degree plus conditions. So the fact that we're just under 30 degrees Celsius, probably quite a welcome back to Henry Wheeler. 998 car of Seyfert there, setting himself up for a good run towards Villeneuve. And Jurt Muller covering off the threat, attempting to cover off the threat from both Seyfert and Hjelte Hufner behind. Up the hill from Tosa they go, and the top 3 have firmly broken away. Alex Reimann is under significant scrutiny from Jaap van Lagen, as we've seen this lap already. Looking to the outside line as they now descend from Piratella down to Aqua Minerale. Van Lagen around the outside. An amazing move from Jaap van Lagen. Carries so much speed through the apex of Aqua Minerale as well. That was a move that signalled a man meaning business, and after the frustrations of yesterday's non-finish, I can't say I'm surprised to see that Van Lagen has woken up with a chip on the shoulder and determination in the eyes. Mace Muller, Jurt Muller, I should say. Under pressure from Jan Seyfert here, the German driver. A veteran of numerous Porsche series at this point is Seyfert. Aboard the 998 car, the 28-year-old German competitor going up against someone much his junior in the form of Jurt Muller. But Muller showing that racing acumen, that defensive driving acumen. Costs himself some time, though, through Tamburello, and that could be the opportunity that Seyfert needs, but Seyfert had to stifle his run to avoid the rear of the number 8 Porsche there. So on the run to Villeneuve, there's nothing that Seyfert can do for now. But I would say that pack of cars behind Muller looks incredibly powder keg-esque. Question is, who's the one to light the match? Seifert, Höfner, Kret. And then the next of the rookies, Peters, running 8th overall. Van Lagen has already found himself on the back of Milan Marchak. That did not take long, and frankly, I wasn't expecting it to. Van Lagen knows this circuit incredibly well. And he has woken up with determination in the bowels this morning. Bouncing over the curbs and down the hill towards Rivazza they go. Oh, the 77 of David Jivok gets pushed out wide there. And will rejoin, having lost the lion's share of a half dozen positions. And the way he's slowing down there, I wonder if he's maybe got a puncture or feels like something is wrong with the car after that excursion, because he didn't seem confident in getting back up to speed, did he? Oh, how close to the arm coat some of these are running on that long flat-out run to Tamburello. Van Lagen looking feisty, trying to find the outside, the inside, any way will do. For the race lead, the 69 driver trying to get past the 96. Can Milan Marchak withstand this pressure? The Polish racer was doing this yesterday, of course. Van Lagen looked very, very fast yesterday prior to his puncture. Still don't know exactly how he ended up with that puncture, but there was debris down on the run to Tamburello shortly before the puncture. Whether there was a connection or not is unknown, at least to myself. Ryman keeping a watching brief on this as well. Not a million miles away. He saw Jaap Van Lagen's pace firsthand as Van Lagen swept around his outside. But if Jaap starts to really scrap here with Milan Marchak, then there's no reason that Ryman couldn't find himself fighting for this race victory in a three-way dance. Ryman, who has won a race this year at Spa, the opening weekend. And of course, he gained points for a victory in race 1 at Spa as well. He won race 2 on the road. He was the first full season non-guest driver in race 1. So he started the season off with a perfect score across the weekend. Only 6th and 3rd at Zandvoort, and now looking to at least get on the podium for this second race after the drama of the collision with Hjelte Höfner. I think scoring some points, having something to show from that race is of the utmost importance. David Jivok's car in with the engine cover up. That's not good news. Mace Muller and Frank Porte going at it here. This is for 9th position. Muller had gotten the better of Frank Porte Ruiz, but there comes the Andorran. Scything back through, and Jörg Bredveld fancies a go at this as well. Haranguing Mace Muller. Bredveld, the GT4 champion in last year's Porsche Sports Cup Deutschland series. He's been a student of, among others, Wolf Hensler, who certainly knows his way around a Porsche Cup car. Has committed himself to the Porsche ladder after coming out of karts at the mid-phase of 2024. This is his first season in a full-fat Carrera Cup machine. He's been taking to it well, has Jörg Bredveld. Jaap Van Lagen, the benchmark for just about everybody on this grid. Homing in on Milan Marchak, also homing in on 50, if he doesn't mind me saying. A hugely experienced driver across 3 decades and an absolute Porsche specialist. If you've beaten him, you've woken up on the right side of the pillow and you've had a good day, especially when there's a Porsche Carrera Cup car involved. Milan Marchak currently doing so, but he's still got 2/3 of this race and some left to go. We head further down the field here to the battle for 15th place between Polderdijk. Oh, and Jafali. Ali Al-Jafali there with a little bit of a heart-in-mouth moment. The rear end of that car stepping out over the curb. He just about kept it pointed in the right direction, but that will have been better than 3 shots of espresso, I'm sure. A snap of that magnitude will certainly get your attention this early in the morning. Van Lagen with a nice run there out of the chicane, now known as Grassini. To the inside goes Marchak to try and cover it off. Van Lagen tries to get alongside. He does. What a move by Jaap Van Lagen. Van Lagen is through into the race lead. Unconventional to see a move made between the two apexes of Rivazza, but that's exactly what Van Lagen has done. Now, can Milan Marchak fight back? Marchak in the slipstream. Marchak looking to the outside at Tamburello, can't find a way through. But Van Lagen got such a great run there through the first apex of Rivazza. He said to himself, well, why wait? And just dove to the inside for the final corner. That was sensational stuff from Van Lagen. He is looking peerless today. Marchak just going maybe slightly over-defensive there into the first apex. Van Lagen getting the corner squared off nicely. And once they were door-to-door, Marchak knew that he had lost the position. Van Lagen, an uncompromising driver in wheel-to-wheel scenarios. And the driver of the 69 from the Team Race Art stable is into the race lead. Marchak, of course, from the Agith Red Ant Racing team, still running second, still ahead of Alex Ryman, and that will be the next point for him. Keeping that Quanlu EST1 racing car of Alex Ryman at bay. This is the battle for 10th overall. Mace Muller holding off Braidveld, who runs third among the rookies, incidentally, just ahead of Henry Wheeler. So Wheeler, the American driver, could yet get a rookie podium out of this. Frank Porte having a look to the inside there of Arthur Peters. NGT Racing's Andorran charge. Frank Porte, who coming into this season, you'd have tipped as a championship contender in the rookie class last year. He showed some serious pace, and without some misfortune, he may well have been the champion. And look at that move. That's very committed. Changing lanes just at the start of the braking zone, and he gets it done. Frank Porte Ruiz there with a very nice move. Runs 4th in the championship, is yet to really hit the heights that we expect almost from Frank Porte, who was a challenger for overall victories at times in 2025 as a rookie. He's been there or thereabouts, 3 4th places so far this season. And came home 6th yesterday. That move was only for 8th place, so he's got some work to do. He's got the time to do it, though. His next target will be Carol Kretz, who's still in a dice with Hjelte Hoefner and Jan Seifert. Well, maybe not a dice, but they are all still together on circuit, much like these three, Van Lagen, Marchak and Ryman, just keeping a respectful distance from one another, but still very much a factor in each other's races. Van Lagen looking to consolidate and extend that gap after the move a lap ago. .8 of a second at the line between them. 0.767 to be exact, and Van Lagen in control. You see there Ryman in third place. It looks like Marchak has closed in slightly here. But Ryman keeping a watching brief. Number 5 bouncing across the curbs there. That's, again, Jörg Bredveld. Now, Mace Muller is the next driver to arrive on the back of Arthur Peters. Peters looks like he's struggling a little bit here for absolute pace in the number 63 Team Race Art entry. Peters, who runs as a rookie here in the Carrera Cup Benelux. Actually quite an experienced driver, but a rookie within Porsche Carrera Cup circles. Has been a winning force in years gone by in Belcar, has dipped his toe in the GT4 European Series, and indeed the Porsche Sprint Challenge Benelux. Arthur Peters, he was the GT4 RS class champion, so aboard a Cayman last year. He secured that championship in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Benelux around early. And has made the move up to Carrera Cup Benelux for this year. And dust kicked up there by Frank Porte, who I think is pushing to try and close in on Carol Kret, but I think the errors are maybe creeping in a little bit as a result of that, and he's got to be careful not to fall into the clutches of Peters, Mace Muller, Jörg Bredveld. Meanwhile, Van Lagen and Marchak still running at the front in tandem. Just behind them, Alex Ryman, whose car, especially from the front end, really reminds me of the days of Paragon Porsche, Mark Sumpter, Slater and co. He used to compete in UK-based Porsche Carrera Cup competition. A little bit Paragon-esque, but it is, of course, the Quanloop EST1 colours. Ryman, who's really taken a huge step forward this year. His best finish in both 2024 and 2025 was 7th position in the race. This year he's already a race winner and looking like a championship contender. Big bounce across the curves there from Ali Al-Jafali, certainly uncompromising. Of course, brother to Rima Jafali, who's quite the trailblazer in terms of not just Saudis in motorsport, but Saudi women in motorsport. I believe one of the first, if not the first, driver or a female driver to get a racing license from Saudi Arabia. And good to see Ali Al-Jafali making strides. They've shared a car previously in a couple of series, but taking the challenge that is Carrera Cup racing very seriously. And indeed, it always is a challenge. Whether you go to Carrera Cup Benelux, whether you go to GB, whether you go to one of the series in Asia or North America, Carrera Cup racing has these specialists just ingrained in it at every level. Much like that man, Jaap Van Lagen, at the front of the field. Just drivers who know Porsche 992s, know Porsche Cup machinery like the back of their hand. It's a really specialised art, getting the absolute maximum out of a Porsche. One could argue that the more downforce you have, the less that those specific Porsche quirks make themselves known. Perhaps the GT3 version a bit less specialised. More people can jump in that and find the ultimate early doors. But certainly where it comes to the Porsche Cup cars, less aero. And certainly not too far removed from the road-going GT3 RS. It really does take a knowledgeable pair of hands. Mace Muller still under scrutiny here, defending from Bredveld. Bredveld, who I think was trying to do what Van Lagen did for the lead there almost, just try and square up the run from the two apexes of Ravazza, but couldn't get it done, and will be in the slipstream now for the run down towards Tamburello, and he's got the momentum, he's got the overlap, he's got the position. Bredveld gets through into 10th position at the expense of Mace Muller. This has all allowed Artur Peters to scuttle away somewhat quietly and say, okay guys, you do your thing. Mace Muller having a little look to the inside, trying to find his way through after losing the position at the start of the lap, but for now he's going to have to settle for studying Bredveld's rear wing. Mace Muller tries to go around the outside at Tosa, and as you can see, there wasn't grip forthcoming. Already at this stage of the weekend, lots of marbles down, lots of different tyre compounds down as well. Of course, a different couple of tyre companies used in the ELMS and Euro Cup 3 are racing here this weekend. That tyre is entirely different in terms of profile from what we have on these Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux cars, these Michelin tyres. A single-seater tyre and a GT tyre, very different things, as we see Jani Kakala pushing on. Again, the only Pro-Am driver scoring points this weekend, but let's not lull ourselves into thinking that he's going to take it easy. Henry Wheeler under pressure. Kakala, who's been Pro-Am champion before, won that accolade in 2024. His best overall finish of the year so far has been a P10, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, no, 13th position was his best finish of the season so far, last time out at Zandvoort. There's some replays of Jivox moments, and as soon as he pulled that car back on the track, he slowed down. We didn't see that at the time, I don't think. Al-Jafali again going rally crossing. We've had a fair amount of dust kicked up, and I don't think anybody's excessively surprised by that. So Van Lagen and Marchak run 1-2. Less than 10 minutes left to run. Ryman keeping a watching brief in third, but doesn't look like he's got the pace to really challenge the Dutchman or the Polish racer up ahead. Ryman, the Estonian, certainly with the opportunity to stay well within the championship hunt if things finish as they do. I must correct myself from earlier on. Milan Marchak won't have 90 points in the championship. He'll have 92, courtesy of a pair of pole positions. And that will mean that he and Van Lagen will be split by just the 1 point at the conclusion of this weekend, rather incredibly. In fact, I now hesitate on that point because it was Ryman, wasn't it? No, it was. It was Marchak on pole yesterday as well. So, yes, he will have got a pole position or a point for each pole position this weekend. He's started at the front for both races, so he'll be on 92 points at this stage. He'll be up to 112 after today's race receives its checkered flag. Meanwhile, Jaap Van Lagen with 86 points on the board right now. If he does take this win and scores himself 25 points as a result, he'll be on 111 points. So it will be a point as it stands between Marchak and Jaap Van Lagen. going into the second half of the season. We reach the halfway point of the year at the conclusion of this race, and if the top two are Martjak and Van Lagen, and they're split by just a single point, that would be a really incredible way to tee up the remainder of the season. Now, Alex Ryman, also worth mentioning. So he's on 83 points right now. If he gets the checkered flag in third position, he'll receive 16. So that'll be 99 points for him. Still certainly a championship contender as well. Van Lagen has extended that gap at the front out to just over 2 seconds. Has been metronomic, and got the feeling that he was in one of those moods and he was going to have one of those days when we saw him sweep around the outside here at Aqua Minerale on Alexander Ryman. The body language of the car told you all you need to know about the determination of the man. And Van Lagen has been pressing on all race long to build that advantage to secure that victory, and he's almost 2.5 seconds to the good. Meanwhile, I think Ryman might be gaining a little bit on Milan Martjak. Let's see these laps as they come across the line. Last time by, Ryman took 4/10 out of Milan Martjak. What does he do this time? They'll come across the line. It's a 1:44.8 for Martjak and a 1:44.3 for Ryman. So yes, another half second taken out of the Polish driver by the Estonian. That gap has gone down from more or less 2 seconds to 0.8 over the course of 2 laps. Ryman wants to try and get this second place. Can Martjak hold on? We've seen Milan Martjak defend from this man Van Lagen. But we've also seen that he's not impenetrable. Can Ryman find a way through? Will he get close enough to attempt to find a way through? Of course, behind them, Jörg Müller in 4th position. Again, having an absolutely stunning weekend. His best finish prior to this weekend in terms of overall results was 9th position. Had a horror weekend at Spa, of course. Involved in a crash at the start of the year in the first race. Did not start the second. But he's really showing his form and his potential now. An overall podium and a victory in the rookie class yesterday. And that's being followed up, at least for now, by a 4th position. And he's ahead of Jan Seifert, a driver who has a lot of experience in these Carrera Cup cars. Someone you'd expect to be a bit of a benchmark. Two minutes and 10 plus 1 lap left to go, and I think that means we've got 3 more laps of racing here. As we see Yanni Kakala kicking up some dust into the face of Jakob Twarog. Twarog in the other JW Race Service Porsche. Of course, he shares that JW Race Service awning with countryman Carol Kret. Those two have been very successful together, sharing cars in endurance competitions. There is Twarog, who is a very, very young man, has fit an awful lot of Porsche racing into his last couple of years, be that in the Iberian Winter, be that in Sports Cup Deutschland, I think Sprint Challenge Central Europe as well. He's been very, very busy indeed. Carrera Cup Benelux, a new challenge for him, rookie driver for this year. And he's going up against one of our more experienced drivers here in the form of Yanni Kakela, and it looks to me, based on that movement through the apex, that Tuareg maybe has run out of rear tyres a little bit. Looks to me like he's fighting the grip on that rear axle somewhat, but so is Yanni Kakela, kicking up some dust. So this time by, we should start our penultimate lap of the race with 25 seconds left on the clock. Clock will hit 0, then it will be the final lap, and Jakob Tuareg rally crossing at the top of the hill at the Gracini chicane. It was a little bit of a heart stopper. Tuareg kept the car pointed in the right direction, but a warning shot delivered by, I don't know, the laws of physics? Van Lagen has extended that gap out now over 3.5 seconds. It's stabilised a little bit between Mark Jack and Ryman, it seems. Ryman still within, or just about around a second away. Frank Porte to the inside of Bredveld. Porte started the lap in 8th position ahead of Peters, and he's fallen back. So something's happened here to Frank Porte Ruiz. He's now not on the offensive. He's trying to defend here, and he gets to keep hold of P9. But how did Porte end up back there to begin with? It was the dust kick-up that we just watched. He lost a lot of time there, the Andorran, just asking too much at Villeneuve. And so Porte Ruiz now under immense scrutiny from Jurt Bredveld. Looks like Arthur Peters has done enough and is going to drive away from the Andorran. Porte Ruiz now 20 years old, I believe, a race winner last year. Or rather, in rookie class, he was a race winner. He got 2 second-place overall finishes in 2025 here in Carrera Cup Benelux. And, of course, before that, the young man was trying to forge his way through the Formula ladder. He was a race winner in the 2024 F4 France. But looked at the GT racing scene, decided that's where he needed to be, and he's been dynamite to watch at times, although this weekend, by his fairly lofty standards, perhaps one that he won't look back on that fondly. Certainly for Jaap van Lagen, it has been a mixed weekend. He was fighting for the win yesterday with Milan Marczak, was looking very feisty indeed, but a puncture struck him down, leading to a non-finish. And with that, his championship lead ebbed away. He's not going to get his championship lead back just yet, but he's going to be right there with Marczak in the points considerations for the rest of the year. Van Lagen aboard the 69 car, who claimed win number 1 of the season at Zandvoort. We watched Jafali and Polderdijk fighting for 15th place. But Van Lagen will be our race winner for the second time this season. The experienced Dutchman, the reigning champion, is the race winner. And he will be just 1 point away from Marczak in the championship considerations. Milan Marczak takes second. Alexander Ryman takes third place. And Jurt Muller rounds out the top 4 ahead of Jan Seyffardt. Jurt Muller also winning, of course, in the rookie classification. So congratulations to him on a sweep of that standing this weekend. Seyffardt, Hjelte Höfner, Karel Kret, Peters, Porte Ruiz and Bredveld taking us down to 10th position. And we saw Al Jafali and Polderdijk continuing to fight, and Polderdijk looks to have got the better of that situation as they run home for 15th and 16th. Indeed, Polderdijk just finishing ahead of Al Jafali ultimately. Van Lagen a happy winner, and I'm sure Jurt Muller fairly pleased to take 4th overall. Will be disappointed not to have held on to those podium contenders to try and make a mark there, but 4th overall and a full haul of rookie points is a good day's office work. Jani Kakala with the Pro-Am win as well, uncontested this weekend, but he found his own fun fighting with the likes of Wheeler and Tuareg. But for Team Racer, for Jaap van Lagen, it's been a solid day. I think that Racer will be on the verge of taking the championship lead as well. That's how Al Jafali lost out on the last lap to Polderdijk down at Aqua Minerale. I think just totting it up quickly in my head, Team Racer may well have the points lead in the championship now. Our drivers then will head to the podium with the aim of celebrating their celebrating, yes, but also spraying their Seb Valois champagne. The motto for Seb Valois is live free. And suppose when you're done with your day's work by 10:30 in the morning, you can live free. So these bottles might get drunk rather than sprayed. The 69 of Van Lagen pulling up to the P1 position. A very happy driver, I'm sure. A vindicated driver after yesterday. Getting a look back at the highlights, it was a perfect start from Milan Martjak as this race got underway. The number 5 of Jurt Bredveld was the driver to go off track this time on the run down to the first corner. Seems to be a tradition, not sure why. But everyone cleanly through Tamburello in the early stages of the race. Van Lagen was up to 3rd position early doors. Frank Porte Ruiz fell through the field. Unfortunately, he'd never really quite recover up the order as he would have liked. A top 5 finish he had the pace for, but didn't quite have the track position. Van Lagen in the early stages was right on the back of Alex Ryman. Jan Seifert was making hay on our eventual rookie leader in the early stages as well, but this was arguably the move of the race from Jaap van Lagen, just powering around the outside of Ryman, folding in at Aqua Minerale to make sure that he had the corner speed. It was an admirable defensive drive at the front of this long queue from Jurt Muller in 4th place. Seifert looked feisty in these early stages, but eventually he would end up falling away as the race wore on. David Jivok unfortunately retiring from the race after that off-track moment. Looked like there was some sort of issue in the engine bay. Milan Martjak was defending hard from Van Lagen. Van Lagen wasted no time getting to the rear of the Polish racer after passing Alexander Ryman. And this would be the moment where the lead was gained. Just a masterful move, getting to the inside between the apexes at Ravazza. You don't see that one very often. At least not quite so successfully. Sometimes you see people go side by side through the final corner and then on the run down to Tamburello, but Van Lagen nailed it. Frank Porte with one of the best moves we saw as well there. Just firing past on the run down to Tamburello. Mace Muller looking to emulate his brother by making his way through the field, but Bredveld proved to be quite an adversary. Jakob Tuareg went rally crossing. While all of that was going on in the background, Jaap van Lagen, after yesterday's DNF, making hay and having a wonderful day here at Imola. He'll be just 1 point back by my extremely provisional maths from Milan Martjak. Jani Kakala winning the Pro-Am class. Rookie win, of course, went to Jurt Muller from 4th overall, but there is no denying that Jaap van Lagen, our defending champion, is still the benchmark out here. A challenging race 1. A dramatic conclusion to his race 1. But a win in race 2 lets Milan Marczak know that he is still at the door and knocking hard. Van Lagen for Team Raceart wins it by almost 5 seconds over Marczak. Reimann third. Jurt Muller, the rookie winner, in 4th place out of Jan Seifert, Hjelte Höfner, Karel Kret, Arthur Peters in 8th place. Frank Porte Ruiz only 9th. I think he'll be a bit disappointed with that. Jörg Bredveld in 10th. Mace Muller, 11th place. Henry Wheeler in 12th. Yanni Kakala in 13th place. Jakob Twarog in 14th place. Jesse Polderdijk and Ali Al-Jafali in 15th and 16th. Makoto Haga, our guest driver, down in 17th place. And unfortunately, his Team GP Elite teammate, the 77 David Jivok, was not able to get to the flag. So then, we are through with our day's racing here in Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. Some dramas, some gladiatorial scraps, and a little bit of gravel tracking. But a very good second half of the season in promise. Just 1 point between Marczak and Jaap van Lagen in the points. We are still live, I'm being told. I thought that was our wrap-up for the day, but Alexander Reimann taking to the podium. Followed across by Milan Marczak, the youngest member of this podium by some margin. But sometimes experience topples all, and that's what we saw from today's race. Jaap van Lagen having a really sensational day at the wheel of the 69 car. He will win the race, he will receive the spoils, the trophies, and of course, the champagne from our sponsor, Zeb Valois. Okay, Van Lagen and co. receiving their trophies. Marczak receiving his second place. Reimann has already received his third place trophy. And there is the winner's gong for Jaap van Lagen, who again will be knocking on the door, right on the verge. It'll be 112 for Milan Marczak and 111 for Van Lagen per my maths in the championship points going into the second half of the year. And that is really grandstand stuff, especially when you consider that the third member of that podium, Alex Reimann, is only about a dozen points back as well. Jaap van Lagen, the most experienced driver, of course he gets the champagne cork out first. And the Sab Valois is sprayed to conclude a brilliant day of racing in the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. Van Lagen for Team Raceart claiming the win. Certainly, it's all old hats to Van Lagen at this point. He's seen and done just about everything there is to see and do in the world of Porsche racing, but still, I'm sure those celebrations are meaningful to him. Don't know if we're going to get a chance to see the rookies up on the podium as well. Of course, Jurt Muller. Oh, we are going to get the rookies. That's good to see. Jurt Bredveld to the third step of the podium here in the rookie classification. Of course, 10th overall and fighting at the end there with Frank Porte. Arthur Peters. Congratulates Bredveld on his performance, but the runaway winner of both races in terms of rookies this weekend, Jurt Muller, really establishing himself and saying, no guys, you're going to have to get past me this season. And so the trophy is handed out to our rookie top three. Bredveld, Peters and Jurt Muller. For Muller, of course, that also means a win for PG Motorsport, who enter both of the Muller brothers, and only the Muller brothers, as a matter of fact. They've got two cars, and they're both operated by a Muller, Jörp and Mace Muller. Mace, who, of course, was a top rookie contender last year, and this year is in the pro class, but his younger brother is starting to feel a bit like a revelation. Let's see what his form looks like in the second half of the season. He's certainly taken a huge step forward here at Imola. No one can get the corks out. There we go. Oh, right to the face. Poor Jurt Muller. I suppose spray towards the face and see if you can't make their eyes sore for the next event. As these three celebrate, I think Yanni Kakela will likely get a chance to head up onto the podium as well, of course, as the Pro-Am winner. The only Pro-Am point scorer this weekend. Let's see what his rivals do for the latter half of the season. That latter half of the season will kick off at the end of the month as we head to Assen. Hockenheim and Zolder will follow. A wonderful selection of circuits once again in Carrera Cup Benelux in 2026. There's Makoto Haga, the guest driver, second in Pro-Am, and Yanni Kakela will take the top step in the Pro-Am class once again in the 39 Cup. The Finnish national anthem. So Haga and Kakala received their trophies within the Pro-Am class. And they will all focus forward now to the task at hand that follows at Assen. Remains to be seen, of course, whether we see Makoto back. He's a guest driver, but we'd certainly welcome him back if he wishes to continue on. And as the champagne sprays for the final time for Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux this weekend, we bid you farewell from the Autodromo Internazionale, Enzo Edino Ferrari. We thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning, and we invite you back from the 31st of July through the 2nd of August for our next event. The TT Circuit Assen waits for us for round 4 of 6 in Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux.